In 2023, here on the Scuderia Blendline channel, we saw the Peugeot finally get completed. It has been a heck of a grind to get this thing up and running, but at the same time, it has been a great journey, which I'm glad to have shared with you guys. In this video, I have put together a montage of moments which span the year. If you are a first-time viewer, this gives you a chance to get a feel for what we've been up to in 2023. You will also be able to learn a little more about this car.
The year started with the final assembly of the front end, making small adjustments and tidying up the engine bay. Most of the components have already been installed numerous times, but it's not until all the items are in at once. Only then you can start routing things neatly. This is a satisfying stage for sure. Next, some of the original Peugeot body parts are fitted. They may have been heavily modified, but nonetheless they came from the original 2005 Peugeot 206 donor car. One of the very last things I figured out were which wheels to choose. I have always loved the simplicity and look of the Team Dynamics Pro Race 1.2s, so a set of 17s were found. You may have noticed I colour changed these ultra lightweight wheels from black to white, as in my opinion all tarmac spec wheels should be white. Barely a week into January and the dry build is complete. Now the next task is to do the vinyl livery, which I had been busy designing months prior behind the scenes. All of the vinyl material had been ordered and it was just a case of dusting off the old Graphtec FC 3100. It is an old machine, but it is as tough as a Toyota and still cuts true. Mid-January in the UK and it's super cold. Extra effort was needed to work the material into place. Lots of hairdryer action was needed, accompanied by some choice language. For so long I had seen the car in its white gel coat form with factory blue bonnet, doors, boot and rear bumper, so it was exciting to see it transform as more and more vinyl was applied. Now the front bumper is completely covered with vinyl, I can fit the polypropylene guard, which helps reduce wear, to the fiberglass lower lip. Moving into February and on my birthday, we filmed the release video, and this was the first look at the car outside the tent and with the full livery.
You're probably wondering where the next Peugeot video is. I must admit I haven't worked on the car for 2 weeks since the release video. I've been doing a lot of editing over the last 2 weeks, catching up on all the footage that I have been filming since the start of the year. As you can see, I'm now at the airport and off to Mexico to the WRC. Once I return to the UK, I'll be focused on getting the Peugeot up and running. So for now, you'll just have to hold on.
Goodbye, sunshine.
Tequila, I reckon. Welcome back to the build series. It has been 1 month since I've worked on this car, so now I'm back from Mexico. I can carry on with the build. The first thing I need to do is get the car more central on the floor so I can get to all 4 corners. Now I'm going to put some power steering fluid in the reservoir. This will need to be bled once the car is up and running.
We are now into April and it's time to focus on making the now named Peugeot actually drive and work. So all the fluids have to go in. Brake, clutch, rear diff, gearbox, engine oil, coolant, fuel, the lot.
I've just found another fuel leak. Unfortunately, it's coming from the hard line underneath the inlet, just down there somewhere. I won't try and start it with a fuel leak, so I'll have to hit pause on trying to get oil pressure. I need to take the inlet manifold back off the engine, unfortunately. I have a pressure gauge ordered for this regulator as well, so once I get that, I know exactly what fuel pressure I'll have. I personally didn't think this setup will be turnkey first time anyway. Even though I want to get the car running for Pugfest this year, which is mid-July, I still have a fair bit of time to sort these issues out. I'll get the parts trays out and I'll start getting the bits off. I was shocked to see them turn up on a bank holiday. We're very used to the Royal Mail striking nowadays. That's good news. I can get the inlet manifold back on the engine now and we can see if we can start it.
Now with the engine back together, it's go time for the first start of the engine.
It runs. And the oil pressure light went off. It runs. Starts. Bloody starts. So after almost 3 years, we finally have this engine running. Steering's really nice now. So I have the brakes bled, the clutch is bled, there is slight play on the pedal, but with the uprated clutch I'm not sure if that's the cause, or I might have to do another bleeding session at some point, but it should be enough to test it. I will check all the bleed points are tightened up. It's been a mad 4 or 5 days working away, so I've just got back to the car and just catching up with where we've got to. I have some more bits that have arrived in the post. For the damping adjustment, I have 24 settings. So to start with, I'm just going to set it in the middle. I've wound it all the way in. I will unwind it 12 clicks. That is a problem.
Oh, we're moving. Don't really have any brakes. Basically have no brakes. Reverse.
Getting to this point in May was a real milestone. A lot of time and effort went into sorting all the various teething issues and leaks. I was pleased to get to the stage where it was running and moving under its own steam, ready for some tuning.
It's back down on the ground. The ride height is a bit more manageable now. It should make things easier for the chaps who are going to tune the car, and also for me to get this outside and onto the road. Looks okay. It was awesome to see the car driving for the first time, well, technically third time, even if the engine is running poorly. It should sound amazing once we get the EJ20 sorted and tuned on the rollers. We may have figured out what is at fault, and I will get onto that shortly. I will now play the clip again so you can hear the Peugeot. It almost sounds like it's running on 3 cylinders. Let's hope it's a simple fix.
Once the car had been tuned, Niall and I couldn't wait to give it a test drive, so on the way back to the build tent, we stopped to make sure it was running right.
Should fire now.
There we go. Sounds nice. I'll let you have a quick drive.
So here we have the dyno printout. As we said before, the limiting factor is the factory 5-speed gearbox. So with that in mind, we haven't pulled as much power as we can possibly get from the engine. However, it's a good starting point. It made 304 horsepower and 309 foot-pounds of torque. You can see the graph is quite linear.
A few days before leaving for Kenya, I got the car MOT'd. With all of the necessary paperwork completed, I could bolt the plates on and gingerly venture out.
I haven't filmed anything for about 5-6 miles, purely for the fact I've just been soaking it in and enjoying its first real drive. All seems okay, bar the engine management light. Temperatures are staying good. It's taken almost exactly 3 years from the start of this project up until now to get it onto the road. It does feel pretty surreal, also nervous at the same time. The fact that I put every single nut and bolt together does make you think, have I done everything right? Is everything tight and correct, but this is exactly why I'm doing some gentle road miles, just to see how it drives, and then we can make improvements from there.
Things are just getting fired up here. I think they're going out on the track about lunchtime. I have just put some tape over the intake on the Peugeot, just in case the air filter gets wet.
The first real drive was the rally day. I had no idea what to expect for the first 60-mile drive. I half expected to be loading the car onto a recovery truck somewhere along the M4, but the thing didn't skip a beat, and I was able to show the mostly confused and interested folks who attended the show what I had been building for quite some time. It was awesome to be parked next to some of the most famous cars in the world, and the Peugeot was definitely a Marmite proposition for the crowd, where plenty of heads were bobbing down to the ground to see if it was all-wheel drive.
So that's it, leaving rally day, 60 miles to home, let's see what we can do.
Now I knew the car could cover some miles, I thought it best to get down to John Wood tyres and see how square the chassis was. Most importantly, I needed to make sure the tracking was aligned correctly. There were only a few minor tweaks to make, so the whole shut and cut procedure must have worked a charm.
It wasn't long before I started making myself at home. I asked the boys if it was okay to use the tools, just to spanner check the car. I've now done about 200 miles, so I just want to check if everything's tight. Anything loose and rattling around is good to nip in the bud now, so I'm not wondering what it is down the road. So I'm just going from the front to the back, checking all the nuts and bolts. Everything was tight, nothing was loose, so a positive result overall. Welcome back to this series that I'm calling Road to Prescott. We have less than a week until Pugfest. There's still a number of small jobs to do, so let's get to it. Even though I've spanner checked the underside of the car, I still need to make sure everything's good under the engine bay. Next, I do all the tidying up in here, making sure there's nothing rubbing and everything's tight, and that everything is as it should be. I finally got my hands on a set of front brake pads, so next I'll get these installed. Now we've sorted the brakes, I want to adjust the fire extinguisher. I installed it before I put the passenger seat back in, so I can actually afford to bring it further back towards the seat. This will not only help with weight distribution, but it will stop people stepping on it as they get inside the car. We may get some cool shots with that. I'm just going to swap the arm for this slightly extended one. Cleaning cars is probably the least favourite job of mine, but it's needs must as the roads have been really wet and greasy. That's it for this short series I called Road to Prescott. As always, thank you for following along. If you've been enjoying the content recently and you haven't subscribed, go and hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions about this build, leave them in the comment section below, and hopefully I'll see you at Pugfest.
Job done. Job go.
Almost 3 weeks ago we took the car to Prescott Hill Climb for Peugeot Festival, where we stretched its legs for the first time properly. Overall, the car performed really well. However, I think it can do better. You see, other than the alignment, we haven't done any real setup with the car yet. The next thing I want to do is corner weight the car. This can also be called corner balancing. We're only 7 kilos out at the front. This has improved things massively. I do have room to go further, so I'm just going to drop this slightly more. Right, let's see what we got. That's pretty good. I've made it out to the Black Mountains. We have some twisty, undulating roads up there, so we'll see how it performs. Yeah, you're doing a good job already.
Can't hear yourself, right?
No.
So we can probably talk about him while you
Yeah,
can't
they're
hear
really
me.
comfy though.
The microphone is directional. The inside of it is the part you want to talk into.
And then that's the Evo mode. Then if I unplug this, it should just turn the intercom off. Let's see how well these perform on the road.
Still hear me now?
Yeah. I think my stomach's still back at the junction.
Do you want to go out the road or you got enough?
Oh yeah, go on.
I need to turn you up, I think.
Yeah. How's that? First time I've been out for a spin.
Yeah. Leg out. Oh yeah, just do it that way. See if I can not crash into the tent. That would be a bonus. You would have thought the amount of times that I've reversed back into this tent now, I've nailed it, but I really haven't. Oh God, that did not sound good. That really did not. I think I've just destroyed my diffuser, to be honest. Bloody hell.
Jaguar. The four-wheel drive is just brilliant in this car. It almost feels like cheating. Before I get started on wiring up the sensor, I'm going to sort this shroud out. I have left the manual switch for the fan still in operation, so the power from the temp sensor has just been added. The sensor just goes to earth, then back to the relay. As I've nicked the power from the spotlight, I need to make sure the switch is always down so the temp sensor operates. Now it's all connected, I need to test if it works. Before I fully install the wiring, I'm going to make sure it's right. Then I can finish it off and get the ducting back in. I've got a fuel leak. So we've got a leak from one of the Y splits. Just going to see if it's something simple like a Jubilee clip. It was fortunate that I had the bonnet open checking the level of the coolant, as I had drained a bit out of the radiator. Otherwise I may not have checked and I would have found out we had a leak out on the road. Let's try again.
Seems okay. It's come on now. Yeah, proof it works. Alright, let's get it back.
It's just turned off at 72 approximately, so it's pretty accurate. We've been using it in rally engines for years. It's always been reliable.
Focus was now making the car reliable for the upcoming track day. The engine oil had already been flushed through 2 or 3 times, so it was time to get the good stuff in, to keep the engine nice and lubricated at higher temperatures.
Whilst I'm under the car, I'll do a quick spanner check. The next thing I need to think about when it comes to this track day are the tyres. As I have said numerous times before, and probably complained a lot, tyres that are on the car are winter tyres, so they get too hot on dry roads. Whilst the car is somewhat up in the air, and while I wait for fresh tyres to be fitted, I'm going to do a thorough spanner check under the back of the car. It's even more important to check the things that are bolted to the underside of the car, and I painted the protective underseal on the underside. Things will take a while to seat down and compress. As you can see, this trailing arm was slightly loose, so I need to make sure I cover everything.
At a certain point, you realise all of the preparation is done. Anything after this point is unforeseen. A quick dust down and it's good to go.
Just getting a few bits together. Inevitably, you never pack what you actually need, but I'm trying to cover all the basics. Water, oils, cable ties, tape, all the essentials.
So it's Friday night, I've just picked the trailer up for the track day in the morning. Somehow I need to get the car and the trailer on my own. The wrong way round. Right. We've got the car off the trailer. We've just done noise and it did 102 decibels. The limit here is 105. We've just passed. The other boys should be fine.
I think we're going to start with 25 psi all around.
Just getting a feel for the track, to be quite honest. Niall just overtook me.
Feel a bit left out not doing my wheel nuts. Might have to just get a tilter engine, just do them.
So we're just about to go out for our second session. This time I'll see what the difference has been made with the adjustment to the damping. Now I've got a feel for the track, I can start to push it a bit more. Okay, session numero 2. Get some heat into everything. You're probably right there, I'm just short shifting. Like this one as well. So that's the sign to do a cool down lap.
The bit that was better, you know, of that top bit, rather than going into fourth, you left it in third.
Nice one.
Good old girl.
Yeah, man.
Just come in after the second open bit session. There's bits of brake pad all over the front wheel. Pads are worn really low. So I've only got a few more sessions left, I'd say, before I have to call it a day. So, understeer.
Yeah.
It is understeering quite a bit. Got one more session left. I'm going to go out now and stay out as long as I can, as long as the pads hold up and the temperature's okay. Yeah, we'll call it a day. Oh, hello. So the front is a lot softer, and it may be helping to turn it, possibly.
I was very pleased to leave with the Peugeot in one piece. All day the only repair was the radiator fan fix, which just needed a cable tie or two to keep the fan from contacting the radiator. Granted, there was a small cooling issue, but we are yet to determine what the cause of the varied temperature readings from the gauge is. That could be a complicated one.
It has been over a week since I took this car for a track day at Landau Circuit. If you saw the episode, you will have seen generally it was a success. Apart from transferring my front brake pads onto my wheels and a slight cooling issue, the day went well. However, a couple of days ago, I took the car for a quick drive. I wanted to make sure it was okay post track day. The first thing I noticed when I took it for a drive, when the engine was put under load, there was considerable vibration. Also, when I backed off the throttle, I had some overfueling. It's down on power, so I'm guessing I've dropped a coil pack or plug. The next thing I need to do is assess what's gone wrong. I don't have a code reader. Before I start taking out all of the plugs and coil packs, I'm going to see if I can do the heat test. I'll start the engine up for a minute or two, then I'll check the temperature of the exhaust manifold and see if one is noticeably colder than the rest. Only needs a minute or so. I don't condone this. If you do try this method, just make sure you don't burn your hands. Ow. They're both equally hot. Yeah, this one's cold. Cylinder 2, I believe. The other three I can barely touch. This one I can hold my hand on, just getting residual heat from the rest of them. It didn't work, so this is confirmed dead. I'll try another coil pack on cylinder 1. I think I have finally solved it. I'll explain now what I've done. When I tried different coil packs in cylinder 1, I didn't clean the plug each time. The plug got so wet it couldn't create a spark. Once I removed the plug, dried it, put one of the old coil packs back on, it worked straight away. It seems like the coil pack just failed and the plug got really wet, and that's why when I tried another coil pack in there, it didn't work. I've got a set of Brembo pads for now. I do intend on ordering some Frodo DS2500s.
I was shocked to see how soft the front brake pads were. Blueprint, not to name any names. The standard Brembo pads turned out to be really good comparatively, so I may get a track day out of them before upgrading to Frodo DS2500s.
That is bad. We have been joking for some time about the lock and wheel nuts that I still have on these wheels, and it's now come to bite me. The last one I was doing up is just sheared off. So it's done up, and I come to taking it back off. That could be interesting. Might get some wheel nuts ordered. We live and learn, eh? I've just taken it for a test drive. The new pads, the old coil pack and spark plug. I've got it up to temperature, it seems fine. I know this was a short video post track day, but it was interesting to find the issues that cropped up. Hopefully they're not recurring. We still need to get to the bottom of the fluctuating cooling temperatures. Driving it on the road is not a problem, but with sustained acceleration, i.e. on the track, that's where it crops up. Also heavy cornering, considering it's a hand-built car from the ground up, with custom cooling and aero. I think coming from its first track day, with these small issues is a positive result. Not good. What a mess. There it is. Lovely. It is almost November, and here in the UK, it's getting dark by 5 PM. If I want to use this car in the winter, I need to make sure the lights work well. I have driven the car a few times in the dark, and I was wondering why the LED headlights aren't brilliant. One is used for dip, and the outer one is used for main. The main isn't working at all, so no wonder they're not very good. For the time being, I'll put another halogen bulb on the offside. In fact, I will just order a new set of halogen bulbs for low beam and high beam. I will try and get some that are more of a white light to match the rest of the car. I now have eBay's finest. It says race sport on the box, so they must be good. Next thing to do is to check the engine oil level and the coolant level. The water level has dropped a bit. The oil level looks full. It's exactly on the full mark. The fact the water was a little low, and I have topped it up a few times since finally filling the system with coolant. It could mean a couple of things. One, there is a leak. Two, we are losing water through the engine, either going into the oil or out the exhaust. Or three, the system is still bleeding, i.e. there is still water in the coolant system. I'd like to think it's the latter. As you know, the radiator is now at the back of the car, so the total liquid capacity of the system is now much larger, and it's more likely to take longer to bleed. When I was driving the car, the engine seemed to have its normal amount of power, so I very much doubt it's the head gasket. I've just started the car back up, and there's not really much more to talk about. I think the other night when it was pitch black, it was easier to see in like torchlight. I'll carry on. I think ultimately I just need to monitor the levels of the oil and the water. to livery now. Should be fully dark soon. Then I'll have another look and see what's coming out the exhaust. Right, let's have a look at the exhaust again. You can see in the light. See that? It smells quite rich. Everything looks alright under the engine bay. So let me know in the comments what you think that might be. This brings 2023 to a close. It has been an interesting year for sure. This project has reinforced my theory that the fun is in the process and not always in the destination. Having a clear direction to focus on finishing this project is not to be underrated, and to be honest, I'm a little lost as to what to focus on next. This being said, I do have at least one cool project for this car in 2024, so sit tight for that. Thank you all for the support and advice over the past few years. You have helped make me accountable and thus helped bring the Peugeot to life. See you all in 2024, and don't forget to love the journey.